Hi, friends. My name's host Eric, and I'm the toast of Tinseltown. That's right. I am the toast of Tinseltown. Why? Well, because I've been working on my new catchphrase. You know, you've got to have a good catchphrase if you want to be successful in life. Last night during the live stream, I posited that deal with it might be my new catchphrase. But I've come to see that maybe we can do better than that. I mean, sure, deal with it. It's a great catchphrase. But is that micing or is this micing? It's this one. Okay. Mic check. It's a little louder now. Put that one up too. So, anyway, what did I call this live stream? I don't remember. I called it Not on My Watch, Deal with It. Deal with it. That was the other expression. Not on my watch. So I'm looking for some help today from the world of the internet in helping me to come up and decide on my new catchphrase. You know, I'm really right now going back and forth between not on my watch and deal with it. One of those two. It could also be looks like we got company. That could be my catchphrase. But I was talking to important Hollywood agents yesterday on the phone, and they were telling me, Eric, the thing that's holding you back is you lack a catchphrase. Deal with it. I'd say, bing, hey, maybe deal with it is my new catchphrase. Sean O'Neill, good morning to you. Carrot / to you as well. You know, if you tell people use a carrot in that fashion, it confuses a lot of people nowadays. You know, when you used to have to handwrite shit all the time, used a lot of carrots because, you know, you left out a letter or whatever. People don't really use carrots that much in that capacity anymore. So, deal with it. Deal with it. Deal with it. You don't like it? Deal with it. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. Looks like we got company. Or if ifs and buts. If ifs and buts. All right, that's a pretty good catchphrase. Hey-ho. Hey-ho is not a good catchphrase for me. That can be your catchphrase, Raphael. We're working on catchphrases for me. I was thinking about don't stop bereaving. But it seems a little too specific for a catchphrase, maybe. That's your catchphrase, huh? See, Raphael has a catchphrase. I need a catchphrase. I'm really loving deal with it. Or you want a boss to be. You want a boss to be. It's a great catchphrase. Because the second half of it is followed up with, you better be the boss. You know. You want a boss to be. You see, it puts people in their place. Whose man is this? JK. Whose man is this? Who's your bee? Who's your bee is a great catchphrase, actually. That one is by far the best of all of them. Hey, who's your bee? You? That's right, I'm your bitch, motherfucker. Well, in case you haven't heard, and in case anybody knows the guy and can inform him of this, I made a decision a while back, quite a long time ago. Lil B can have none of my bitches. In fact, if I see his ass, I'm taking all of his bitches. So he can suck it. Just to be clear on that. Anybody who is like based, like, okay, you give me your bitches too then. I'm not having this shit. Eric defeats Lil B. This is an episode of Talking with Three People I call Eric crushes Lil B. Deal with it. I mean, the thing is, I just need a little bit more Macho Man Randy Savage in my life. What I mean by that specifically is I need to manifest more Macho Man Randy Savage in my day-to-day living. How to get to do that? You don't go against the Macho Man! Snap into a Slim Jim. Hello, man. Look, the woman there is not Lilith. My father confirmed me you were Abraham, the actual Abraham, and something is going to happen in the next years. My girlfriend is not Lilith. You're correct. My girlfriend is Rachel. She's no Lilith. The only Lilith I can think of is I don't think of you as spamming at all. Yes, very my hell. I don't think of you as a spammer. I think of you as rather singular in your issue focus. Yeah, Lilith, right? That's the only Lilith I can think of is the one who played Frasier's wife. You know, that's the only Lilith I can think of ever seen on a TV show or anything. Call now. Hot girls are waiting to extrovert their deepest intuition. Call now. We're so lonely. Don't wait. Call now. We're extroverting our deepest intuition. Oh, yeah, I've heard a little affair. Call now. Girls are waiting. And then they show the girl who's like, and she's like got their finger with a cord, like a landline, you know? We're waiting. Call now. It's not a party line without you. Hey. of such things exist. In some years, if things go according to the sacred paper I had access and then lost, we will meet along with 18 other 18 persons through an alchemical circle of eternal health. Huh? Wow. Well, I will say this, Yitzhak Mahel, is that I believe that my life still has big things ahead of me. That there's going to be that what comes next will be massively bigger than what came before, some way or another. I believe it to be the case. I couldn't justify that or anything, but I believe it to be the case. So, Yisrael Mahal, I'm going to let you try out today. I'm going to try out on you, I guess, today. A couple of my new catchphrases. Not on my watch. Deal with it. I'll debate him, right? Who am I debating? I don't know who Massive is. Matt Acut? I'll debate whoever. I don't care. About whatever. I don't care. I've never heard of the person before. Tomorrow night. Do I have a debate tomorrow night? Oh. I should. Well, you should tell me it's important. Instead of playing like, okay, well, you see, it's like you gotta sell it a bit. Like, if there's something specific I need to see in it. I didn't know you'd set up something or whatever. Am I booked for tomorrow night to debate this person? That's fine if I am. If you booked me for something, that's totally fine. But thank you for making sure I'm aware of it. Well, yeah. Listen, I don't try to push synchronicity on reality. I accept reality as as spitting its catchphrases at me. And there's two things reality is always telling me. These are the two things. Not on my watch, and deal with it. Oh, David, that's what time it is. That's how I tell time. It's called my, what are those clocks that you just use as a rock called? Sun clocks or something? I forget what it's called. It is, what time is it now for me? It's 8:45 a.m. I'm Los Angeles time, Pacific sundials. That's what it's called. What I was really impressed with myself last night about is that I somehow pulled out of my ass the word for study of saints. Almost, I had to look it up. I almost remembered it. Not a word I ever use. I've read it once or twice and I've never used it. Oh, I'm gonna have to go poo in a second. I can feel it moving now. Imagine this up inside of you, but made out of poo and slowly moving its way down to your butthole. That's what I'm experiencing right now. Raphael, I was listening to Jung talk about how different the word intuition is perceived in German. I don't speak German, but host Eric speaks with a German accent sometimes. What? Eric, can you answer this question for us? Yes, I can. Yeah, you see, in Germany, when we use the word intuition, we're talking more about Waldfests and Oktoberfest. It's a little bit different. You got to visit me in Stuttgart and see me in my native elements, then you'll understand. Raphael knows. He and I go down to the Biergarten all the time. And we listen to techno in a very regimented German way. Raphael is lying to you about the word intuition in German. Okay, he's not right about it. In German, it refers more to Bratwursts and less to how you say cognition. No, Raphael, we are both German, so das ist verboten. It's a Q&A debate where I ask a question and one of both of you answer it to do some back and forth. Cool. What's the topic? I'm excited. Yeah, you've got to use the word Warnung. It's German for before idea. Yeah. MC McPhee. EMC Fee. MC Fee. Can I do rings? I can. It's easier to blow smoke rings with cigarette smoke than it is with bong rip, but okay. So I'm about 2 minutes away from getting up to poo. While I go inside and poo, I have a request I'd like to make from me to each of you here in the chat. While I am pooing, can you please, if you don't mind, chat amongst yourselves? What type is Biden? Biden is an individual who is suffering from dementia. That's what he is. As the person whose mother has dementia, it's surprisingly easy to recognize now for me. I don't know. What type is Isabel Queen? Who's Isabel Queen? I don't know who that is. Isabel Queen? Or is a bell rung? That right there was not a bell ringer. Isabel II from England? Yeah, you can ought to look her up when you get there. Don't worry, there are only 2 Isabels in England, so talk about the second one. You know who's named Isabel? My ex-niece by marriage. So what are we debating? Oh, religion. Okay, cool. I gotta poop. Can you chat amongst yourselves? I have trouble. Hi, I'm back. You know, just yesterday, day before, I went and visited my old middle school. We stood in front of it and took a picture of it. And as I was standing there, Laura McGinley, my heart went out to the desperate plight of those people who suffered during the Highland clearances, because I too am a Highlander. Here's the thing. If our type is our ego, then my type must be overinflated. What they would call a equivocation fallacy or a hilarious joke, one of the two. Static systems. That's why I use bounce. Reduces static electricity. There's actually something I want to play really quick. Just one song I want to play on the guitar. I was singing it while I was pooing. And I remember thinking, what a great song it is and how I love to play it. It's a cover. It's so easy to play. And so pleasant to sing. Okay. Here we go. If I were gonna be a guitar teacher or something, or to recommend songs for beginners to play on the guitar that are great, fun songs to sing and play, I would recommend this one. I met someone at the dog show. She was holding my left arm, but everyone was acting normal, so I tried to look nonchalant. We both said, I really love you. The Shriners loaned us cars. We raced up and down the sidewalk 20,000 million times. Why did they send her over anyone else? How should I react? These things happen to other people. They don't happen at all. In fact, when you're following an angel, doesn't mean you have to throw your body off a building. When they're calling you a pinhead, calling you an angel, calling you the nicest things. I heard they had a space program. When you sing, you can't hear, there's no air. Sometimes I think I kind of like that, and other times I think I'm already there. Gonna ask for my admission. Gonna speak to the guy in charge. The secretary says he's on another line. Can I hold for a long, long time? I found out she's an angel. I don't think she knows I know. I'm worried that something might happen to me if anyone never finds out. Why did they send her over anyone else? How should I react? These things happen to other people. They don't happen at all. In fact, when you're following an angel, doesn't mean you have to throw your body off a building. Someone's in your pinhead, calling you an angel, calling you the nicest things. I heard they had a space program. You sing, you can't hear, there's no air. Times I think I kinda like that, and other times I think already there. It's a fun song. It's a nice song to sing and play, except here's the problem with it. It's got a lot of words and no real breaks to breathe. So I run out of I run out of air trying to sing that song. I said, They Might Be Giants song. I met someone at the dog show. She was holding my left arm, but everyone was acting normal, so I tried to look nonchalant. We both said, I really love you. The Shriners loaned us cars. We raced up and down the sidewalk 20,000 million times. Why did they send her? It's great. It's a great song. You know, it's like, the thing is, They Might Be Giants can explain a lot about cognitive functions and stuff. You'll get Matt's attention right away for what? Is that following up on something you said before? I mean, I'll definitely be there. I'll check my email for sure now, and I'll figure out where I'm going, and I'll be there. If you want to like confirm or whatever, I'm there for sure. Mike, me, and Lauren are best friends, and we're INTJ and ISTP too. I see. All right, so later this afternoon, I want Mike, me, Lauren, and me to go exploring the moors. Arr. 'Tis a rough night to be out on the moors. Because Scottish people sound the same as pirates. That's why. Okay, Stuart John says, if I'm understanding your system correctly, the way to deal with static system tasks is through deliberation and action, and with dynamic system tasks with knowledge, heuristics, interface. Right. Except the thing is, you know, I always talk like this, and I shouldn't do it, but it's so easy to make this mistake, and I keep falling back into it, which is, it's important to remember that the cognitive function is somebody paying attention to something. So it's not so much that the system that you're dealing with is necessarily static or fluid, so much as it is the way you're approaching a given whole set of circumstances either runs afoul of or is comfortable with fluid elements. But yeah, it's basically saying this, that if you are a deliberation action type or action deliberation type, that you have picked a function configuration that is strategically designed to take advantage of static elements in the world that you can deal with in an action deliberation fashion. That each of the cognitive function stacks is really one like kind of approach to dealing with the world. And so you're going to be, for me, somebody like me, I'm going to be best served by I'd be most comfortable anyway, attending in this fashion, where we're talking about a bunch of shit that doesn't move, right? Like what I've said before doesn't move. So you can reference it, you can look into a little bit of it, question me about it, whatever, right? That's the aspect of it that's static, along with the fact that language is inherently binary rather than sliding scale. Although language has the capacity to explain sliding scale stuff, definitions themselves are more binary than they are anything else. Oh, I'm way behind. You're Scottish, but you speak German. I'm transracial, but I speak with a German accent sometimes. Okay. So I'm about to drink Devil Iced Tea cocktail in a bar. Price is 666 dinars. Okay. How many dinars are there in a dollar? Why do women talk more than men on average? I guess there's studies and stuff that have shown that to be the case, but I have not experienced that in my own life because I tend to talk more than the other people I've encountered, at least historically in my life. Although, you know, in real life, I monopolize the conversation less than I do on the internet because I am the only one with the camera and microphone in this setup here with live streaming. You know. Wow, dinars aren't worth very much. It's a Serbian dinar, Winston's mom. It's not an Iraqi dinar. Is this my natural state of being then or not, Eric? Well, I mean, look, everybody is always walking around in their natural state of being. The real question is your natural state of being at home in the life that comprises the ecosystem in which your cognitive function stack lives and hunts as an organism, so to speak, you know? This isn't pointing the right direction. Eric, if you get any worse with your TE, you're going to lose the ability even to open a door. Put it right there. God, I need a TE helper person who just does my TE shit all the time for me. TESE shit. A puzzle game level could be dealt with by TINETISETENITESI. The interesting thing about this notion that stacks are strategies towards life is that obviously some strategies are much more conducive to, I guess, attaining success on broadly held metrics than are others. And it's odd because you'd wonder, it kind of makes you wonder, like, why do ENTPs exist exactly? So if you think of types as filling some sort of purpose, like socionics people do, because they talk about the sosion, right? That every type is needed for the sosion. But really, how is being an ENTP a good strategy for dealing with life? It seems almost like a cognitive strategy that you get to adopt once you're confident you don't have to deal with life that much or something. So it's weird. It's we've all been intellectually informed by the implicit claim that evolution has, which is that everything that exists because it's purposeful towards some evolutionary advantage, right? This is an interesting notion. There's no real reason to believe that our various qualities, attributes, commonalities, or whatever are the way they are specifically because they provide a certain kind of benefit to the species, quote unquote. That's a great lie and metaphor of evolution, is that the species exists and has interests and acts and can be treated and talked about as though we're an agent. It's the ultimate in academically legitimated reification fallacies. Okay, so it is true, Raphael, that that a lot of people or a lot of cultures or communities will kill a wild animal that has hurt a human being. And the justifications for that are usually, well, now it's a man-eater. Now it's a man-eater. Now it can't be trusted around humans. Now that we know it attacks humans, it's just going to keep doing it. I don't know if we really have I don't know if that's really a legitimate concern or not. I suspect it's not the sort of thing that humans have ever wanted to test, right? They don't go, okay, well, let's find out if this bear will keep attacking people or not. There's sort of a desire for people also to attribute all attacks by a given species to the same individual of the animal of that species. Selection doesn't take place at the gene level either. Stuart Johnson. Well, I mean, it does, absolutely, but it's negative selection that returns the genome to the mean, that eliminates sickness from the genome. It doesn't eliminate it entirely, but dramatically limits the extent to which genetic sickness can enter the genome of a species. So the reason for this is because definitionally, and I guess, as an identity of idea, so to speak, but just in a common sense, obvious way, a species is a self-replicating genome. That's definitionally what it is. So, it's the only meaningful definition of it. And immediately that puts us in a quandary regarding evolution, because the ideas of evolution would seem to run afoul of the fundamental definition of what a species is. It also runs afoul of everything we've ever seen for all of human history. So we've never seen any pair of animals of a species give birth to some hybrid thing. Never. Of course, remember, the larger a population gets, the more difficult it is to even conceptually imagine changing the genome, okay, through selection. And also note that if any principle of selection, which linking to evolution, were correct, then genetic diversity would increase with population size. But it doesn't. So you can just lay evolution into a casket and bury it under the ground right there. I don't even have to argue any further. It is done. Stick a fork in it. Okay, fine. I'll accept that definition. If you want to say a species, individuals are members of the same species when it's possible for them to produce a reproductively viable offspring, I'm totally down with that definition too. You still find the rotting corpse of evolution in its casket needing to be buried. That is not evolution. There's adaptation within a genome to adapt to changes in the environment. Things have some elasticity, but not infinite elasticity. So, for example, moths that are white, when the trees change to black because of all the soot, they are capable of adapting. Some species have a huge amount of adaptation within the genome. We can look at dogs as proof that evolution doesn't happen, okay? So here's how we know that dogs are proof that we can attain a great deal of adaptation within a genome without ever creating speciation. And we can attain much more differentiation within a genome than any natural forces ever could, because we're willfully causing it to happen, right? So despite the fact that we have made Chihuahuas and Great Danes, both can still mate with wolves because we never speciated them. And that's intentionally trying our hardest for thousands and thousands of years to do so, whether we were knowingly trying to do that or not. So we can eliminate any possible notion that adaptation of genome within a species by selective pressures to differentiate to extremes within that genome causes speciation. And remember, if we were to stop putting that breeding pressure on those species, they would revert to the genetic mean, which, again, disproves the fundamental notion of evolution. Okay, I don't understand why that would be the case. You need to explain to me why, if in fact a species has room for adaptation within its genome, that has anything that your specific, you have to explain a lot more than that. But I'd also point out, you didn't respond to my earlier point, which is, if in fact adaptation causes speciation or any sort of change within the genome, then why don't we see increased genomic diversity with increased species population size? Answer that question. Address that first. Well, you are incorrect. You could artificially inseminate them and they produce a reproductively viable offspring, Stuart Johnson. And that was your definition, not mine. No, I'm asking this question. If, in fact, some sort of differentiation within the genome through mutation or selection or something occurs, and that's where speciation comes from, then why don't we see increased population size correlate with increased genetic diversity within a species? Why don't we? Somebody answer me that question. Nobody's ever even touched it, ever even picked it up and go, that is a tough question. People just run from that question like the plague. It reminds me of what happened when the whole COVID shit first happened, right? And I said, look, the actual fatality rate is at least 10 times lower than what they're saying it is for this obvious reason. Nobody touched it. In other words, nobody said, oh, wait, you're right. It was just like, nah. You know? Because the threshold of genetic difference that causes species differentiation is independent of population size. So you're saying it's not a gradual change, but rather sudden mutations reaching a sudden threshold level and causing a new species all of a sudden via the founder's effect and an endless series of impossible to imagine coincidental bottlenecks in population size? I mean, you didn't answer my question. Because the threshold of genetic difference that causes species differentiation is independent of population size, that does not address my question. If, in fact, genetic differentiation within a species is responsible for speciation, then why would we not see more differentiation within a larger population species? That doesn't answer my question, what you said there. It sounds like something that would answer my question, but it actually doesn't. But, well attempted. Thanks, Lawnmower. Okay, not everybody didn't agree with me from the start, but most people just didn't touch it. Because it would be a different species because the threshold isn't magically bigger. But the threshold, as you defined it, is binary, able to produce a reproductively viable offspring. So you have to have two members of this new species that can no longer mate with their previous species, as you defined it. How does it get there is a question evolution fails to answer. So, I appreciate you defining it like that. I agree that's the best definition of it. Note evolutionary biologists reject that definition of species. In fact, reject all definitions of species now, because under any definition, they can't actually affirm their bullshit evolution, which isn't even a theory. It's not even a thing. Nobody can explain to me what it is that they're defending. What is the mechanism by which speciation occurs, Stuart Johnson, in evolution? What is the mechanism? Once you state this, understand, once you've established what the mechanism is, that we can make predictions from that claim and test them to see if we falsify or confirm. Not necessarily confirm, but if the results are consistent with or if we falsify, okay? You want to be able to do that. If you're talking about something that we cannot do that with, then you're avoiding actual reasoning in favor of, the church of academia. This is the thing that is frustrating about the evolution debate for me, is the evolution debate is never held on the correct side of the flow. Okay, so it's a quantitative threshold. Okay, but the point is, until you reach that threshold, you cannot produce, you can still produce a viable offspring with members of your species, right? And after you reach that threshold, you no longer can, right? Stuart Johnson, what is the mechanism by which this occurs? Is it sexual selection? Is it selection for positive mutations? Is it the nearly negative mutation, genetic drift theory? What is the mechanism by which this occurs? If you can't answer that question, you're not even defending anything. You know, it's like, let me see what Skyger's question is. I mean, I agree. If you do that kind of reasoning, Skyger, you're going to determine quite quickly that this makes no sense. Gradual change over time makes no sense. Enough mutations that the offspring dies or is infertile. So do two individuals of a formerly different species concurrently become this new species that can mate with each other? Or what? Remember, even if you isolate two members of a species, they're still the species that they are. The offspring that they have are still that species. And even if the circumstances are different, they never stop being that species. Bugs stay bugs. Dogs stay dogs, you know. My novelty to time ratio is very bad. Always same stuff again and again. Well, that is a TI thing, Cloud. I do believe that there are certain positions I hold that are the correct positions. And a lot of times they're positions that are not commonly held by people who consider themselves intellectually robust. So most intellectually robust people just go ahead and accept that evolution explains speciation somehow. And the reason they do that is because we were all taught that shit in school and because genetics is real. So the study of genetics is real. Mendel's pea pods are real, you know. Well, again, Chris Chapman, that's the problem with this. And the frustrating thing about evolution is it's always argued on the wrong side of the flow. People ask me those kind of questions. So Chris Chapman asks, how do you explain the premise of your complaints to someone like me who doesn't know any of the evolutionary literature? What is the nature of my objections? It's the wrong question to ask. The right question to ask is, can somebody please explain to me the mechanism by which speciation supposedly occurs according to evolution? Can somebody please explain to me what evolution is saying? Like, what's its claim? It claims to explain speciation. So what is that explanation? Nobody can answer that question. So why in the world should anybody, quote unquote, believe in it? They cannot even say what it is. Well, what are my thoughts on Native Americans? As a Native American, I prefer to be called, I understand that, you know, you regular people sometimes like to call us Indians. We are officially referred to as Native Americans, but I prefer that you call me Indian Feather Not Dot. And I ask that you respect my cultural heritage. My cultural heritage means that I get to kill buffaloes anytime I see them. I've had this fight so many times at City Hall. You know, a buffalo wanders into town, and I'm straight out the house with a chainsaw, a 22 bolt action rifle, which isn't great for taking down a buffalo, but it'll wound it enough that the chainsaw will finish the job. And people complain. I say, hey, this is my native right. This is how my native peoples do this. With a shotgun, if I had one, I'd use one, but I don't. But normally a shotgun and a chainsaw. That's how we harvest our natural bison friends. So get the fuck out of my face before I go back to my teepee, get my papoose and my tomahawk and scalp your ass. That's what I think about it. You know, I am a little fussy about my race. Indian feather nut dot. Okay, John Adams, but think about it. Let's talk about pigeons. Let's say a pigeon. So if an organism is able to get food, live longer, and therefore reproduce more times, those genes will spread more. So what is the advantage that individual of the species has? It seems to have the same genome as all the other members of the species. Why is it born with a different genome or a modified one, a mutated one? Do you believe in positive mutations? Because scientists don't. It's not possible. We all generally can agree now that it's not possible for a species to have a child that has a positive mutation that gives them an advantage sexually over their other species members, and for that to change the genome. We've eliminated that as a possibility. That was the original Darwinian notion of evolution, with sexual selection. But we recognize now that there are no positive mutations, that the best mutations are nearly neutral, which is what prompted the nearly neutral theory of evolution, which requires the idea of genetic drift to explain how genomes can change despite the realities and the mechanics of genomic reality. The mechanics of genomic reality, no, none are positive. The best you get is nearly neutral. Look it up. Google it. And no self-respecting evolutionary scientist any longer, anyway, claims sexual selection is the mechanism. That's been tossed aside as possible. There is no answer as to what the mechanism is. But I've had this argument so many times. I don't really feel like rehashing the stages 1 and 2 of this argument over and over again. We never get into the further stages because I'm always arguing with people about stages 1 and 2. You don't understand how you should be thinking about evolution. Here's how to think about it, John Adams. Does evolution meet its burden to affirm? In other words, am I convinced I understand how and why this has occurred, that it has actually explained it? Does evolution make predictions that I can check to falsify or run consistent with its claims? The answer is no, 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 no. And so we negate. It doesn't, it's like we don't negate because Nagel has a better case. We negate because evolution utterly fails to meet its burden to affirm its central claim that it explains speciation. No, mutation is negative because most mutations result in the death of the individual of the species experiencing the mutation. If the mutation happens after they're born, it's called cancer. Now, it's not sometimes positive to have cancer. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. Now, epigenetics is a more promising mechanism to use to explain evolution if you wanted to try to do that, except it doesn't even begin to come close to actually explaining speciation, and it's an insane stretch. Remember, in order to account, John Adams, look, I don't want to play that stupid game. Just because I don't have an explanation doesn't mean your non-explanation is preferable, okay? You need to remember, that's how we argue. We have to understand who has the burden, the one making the claim. Evolution is making the claim that it explains how. Right, and what we would see, John Adams, in fact, if the Arctic retreated and it was more brown than white, that those Arctic rabbits would start turning up more brown, okay? Because there's adaptation possible within a genome. Genomes have elasticity, okay? So the phenotypic expression of that genomic elasticity will show things that species that change color or otherwise alter in response to changes in the environment up to a point. Just like my body will too. Like if I work at a job where I have to lift shit all the time, then my muscles will get bigger and adjust. I will adapt, right? But if I work at a job where I have to fly, I'm fucked. I can't grow wings. And the other thing is this. This is the other important thing to remember is because of all the trouble that math gave evolution, basically math stepped up and said, this idea doesn't work from a math population perspective. It doesn't work at all remotely. There's no way to make it work with the math. And that was, that's the first major objection to it, is the realities of population dynamics disprove it's everything about evolution. But in order to get around this, somebody came up with a theory in the 70s of punctuated equilibrium, because they couldn't explain evolution. Evolution started with this notion that 4 billion years ago, Earth started, and gradually over the course of 4 billion years, we evolved from microbes into human beings or whatever. The problem is the fossil record, which the evolutionists so heavily rely upon to justify their central notion that increasing complexity comes from decreased complexity. The fossil record shows eruptions of speciation and species arrivals in short periods of time and multiple extinction events. So gradualism was eliminated as a possibility by the most empirical evidence we have regarding the development of species over time, or the occurrence or appearance of species over time. It was dramatically contradicted by the fossil record. Namely, okay, it's not possible. Gradualism is not possible. This didn't happen over 4 billion years because the Earth kept resetting every 40 billion years or so. So what the evolutionary science community came up with in the 70s was this thing called punctuated equilibrium that purported to explain why evolution was still correct, right? And it said that for some reason, conditionally in the world, during the meso whatever period, there was a burst of evolution happening. But then once those species reached genetic stasis, then that mechanism switched off, so that all of these species evolved just like evolution said, but it only took like 2 million years, not 4 billion. And the reason that we don't ever see anything evolving like that when we look at it now is because they're in genomic stasis and that mechanism has been turned off. This was actually taught to people as the explanation for why evolution was still right, without any explanation as to what that mechanism was, what turned it on, what turned it off, or anything of the sort. Now, recent studies have essentially debunked the central reasoning evidence link used to justify punctuated equilibrium. If you Google it, you can see that there's some articles recently about it. Basically, have debunked punctuated equilibrium. So that's in the trash heap of evolutionary history as well, as is every attempt to reinvent this fundamentally flawed idea. What does the theory of evolution remind me of more than anything else? Concentric circle astronomical models created by scientists or astronomers who were compelled to stay in line with church dogma about perfect circles in the heavens. That's what evolutionary science has devolved into. It's devolved into a bunch of concentric circles to try to justify a central claim that's fundamentally unjustifiable because it's false. So yeah, the thing is this. Okay, so hybridization is, both these things are, they says here about speciation, right? But what they're really talking about is about genetic adaptation within a genome, within a species, without causing speciation. They're not talking about speciation. If you Google, okay, I want to look into how we created the lion badger, the new species lion badger that we created a little while ago. Oh, we did it by hybridization. In other words, we bred sports. They're called sports in plant stuff. They're called sports. Like if you plant a bunch of peas and one of them has weird leaves, it's called a sport. And you can try to isolate that and create a new breed of that from that sport if you wanted to. So let's say, we were talking about hybridization as a means of speciation. Well, then we would see examples in history of sports being turned into breeds, being turned into distinct species. If you Google that, or you look up which is the breeder who's created the most new species with their hybridization techniques, you will not get any answers at all. Nobody's ever created new species with hybridization techniques. They discover, as you would if you want to adapt your body to your job, that you can do that if your job requires you to lift heavier things. You can't do that if your job requires you to fly. You can't do that if your job requires you to breathe underwater. Your body doesn't have that much elasticity or adaptability. Same with a species genome. Remembering that a species is just a metaphor. Species are not agents. They do not have interests, and they do not take action. And it's not evolution within a species either. It's silly to call it microevolution. It's breeds emerging due to particular environmental pressures causing the inherent elasticity within a genome to be maximized. The point is, I don't have to answer any questions about how and why speciation came about for us to debunk evolution. It's like your non-answer is not better than my acknowledgement that you don't have an answer. My assertion that you don't have an answer, my correct assertion you don't have an answer. And that's the problem with evolutionists, is they don't have an answer. They can't answer the core questions that would even allow me to negate their position, because they don't know what their position is. But they still cling to the word evolution. Okay, so mules are proof that hybridization doesn't lead to speciation, because as Stuart, what's his name? I like you, by the way, a lot. I want to tell you that. You're smart. You say interesting things, Stuart Johnson. As Stuart Johnson defined it, species is able to produce a reproductively viable offspring. You can try to hybridize all you want with asses and horses, but you won't make, donkeys and horses, but you won't make dunk horses, you'll make mules. I wanted to breed blue whales with human army men to make super marines. They'd be the size of whales, the shape of people, and they have built-in gill guns. That's my plan as commander-in-chief. I'm going to make that happen. Well, yes, hence speciation. Different species that can't reproduce with their parent species. They can't reproduce with each other either, though. The offspring aren't reproductively viable. So mules can't reproduce at all. I don't know if they can hump, but they can't make babies. Not with other mules, not with horses, not with donkeys. As we define speciation, the offspring has to be reproductively viable. Yeah, that's as we defined it shortly before you arrived. So I don't blame you for being for wanting to go back on the flow and make sure that's hammered down. Rafael Avellaros, you are a young knight on his hero's journey. Doesn't get much better than that. You're a young knight on his hero's journey. So what does that mean? Well, it means you've got to find a damsel in distress. Everybody, okay, now polyploidy, I have to Google it. I remember reading about it before, but I don't remember what it is. So I'm going to Google it and refresh my memory. Okay, well, look, there's no reason to think that this genetic mechanism that they're describing here, and the corresponding evolutionary theory, sympatric evolution, there's absolutely no reason to think. I mean, sympatric speciation, it says, right? Just because polyploidization is a real genetic mechanism, that's fine. But they make a leap here to sympatric speciation that does the same thing evolutionists always do. They beg the question. They assume the mechanism that is not ever explained is predominant. In other words, when you look at sympatric speciation, it describes something occurring, but not actually how it occurs. So sympatric speciation events are quite common in plants, resulting in polyploidy. The polyploid offspring occupy the same environment as the parent plants, but are reproductively isolated. Now, nobody's made that happen. It's been concluded by assuming the mechanism, right? If in fact sympatric speciation events were quite common, then we'd be able to make them happen. But we can't make them happen. It's just presumed that existing states of affairs are explained by evolution. Therefore, here's one way it must have occurred. There's a begging the question problem that runs deep in evolutionary science. Okay. I can't read while I talk about something else. I can't. I have to, I can only focus on one set of language at a time. I mean, I'd have to read the methodology and understand what exactly they said they had done. Because if it involves things like gene splicing and stuff, that's not any evolutionary mechanism that's ever been described as evolutionary. So that would not, in my mind, prove anything. I'm not saying it's impossible for us to create a new species. I'm saying evolution doesn't explain how speciation naturally occurred. They were. Listen, Winston's mom, you probably remember as well. There is a dark, dark day in American history. You could call it the final eclipse of trans fats or something. When fast food restaurants stopped frying shit in trans fats, that was a dark fucking day. American fast food took a real hit that day. You practically have to bring your own container of salt along in California because, like, it doesn't matter how salty or whatever it is. If you're a fast food restaurant in California, you don't put salt on fries. Why? Because people are so stupid and fussy around here. They'll be like, I can eat salt. My dietary restrictions. Your dietary restrictions are made up bullshit. So shut up with your nonsense. And if you think fries are better without salt in them, then you're just plain stupid. Nobody wants fries without salt on them. God, California. Certain things about California are so dumb, so gaff. No salt on my fries. Come on. I asked at Tops the other night. Rachel and Cameron and I went to Tops. We rode our bikes up there. By the time we got there to Tops, Rachel had gotten a flat tire on her bike. But anyway, so I know they don't put salt on the fries. So when I order, I say, can you please salt the fries? What do? They put seasoning salt on the fries. I was like, oh, no. And they put too much seasoning salt. I didn't say, can you please MSG the fries? I said, can you please salt them, motherfuckers? You know what I'm saying? You feel my righteous outrage? You can see how justified it is. You'd be mad too. One nice thing is, since COVID, a lot of the stupid rules just go out the window. Now you don't have to ask for straws anymore. You automatically are given disposable straws again. I guess fuck the turtles because COVID, right? Like every law in the world is just out the window because COVID. And how is this? Is this some sort of application of rule of law that's occurring? I don't think so. It's called virus. Something I can't see is going to kill me. So anything. Please preach the sodium shortage. People are insane. Ridiculous. Not on my watch. Deal with it. No salt for you. I don't think it's a legal restriction. I think that restaurants, because in California, there is a large enough population of what you might call insane diet fussy people in California that they know if they salt their fries, that someone's going to, I cannot eat this. I have a dietary restriction. There's so much salt in this. Of course, like a burger or something that's sort of naturally salted, but you can't see the salt or note that it's been salted. They just gobble that right down and not think anything about it, right? Because people are what? Rhymes with rupid. I'm going to sing a gospel song about the salt shortage. Don't forget you've got a duty. Don't forget you've got the choice at fault. You could choose to be part of the problem, or you could order your fries with salt. There's a shortage in my heart. There's a shortage in alt. There's a shortage of goodness in the world. So, for goodness sakes, order fries with salt. If you aren't salty potato products, what is wrong with you? I guess instead of salting your eggs, you probably season them with an old chew. But decent folk all agree with me. Fries are no good unless they're salty. Put away your evil ways and salt your fries. Not on my watch. Deal with it. Deal with it. In California, I'm sick of you being so gaff. Put some fucking salt on the fries. No, I don't want your meatless burger. I also don't want grainless bread. Hey, I know. Let's take what defines the food and get rid of it. That's healthy. No, it's not. No, I don't want your bowl of twigs and pebbles to eat. You eat it. It's raw. It's the way cavemen lived. Therefore, it's healthy. Why should we think cavemen were more healthy in their diets than modern people? We live like 4 times as long. I know why. 'Cause people are stupid. Oh, so very dumb. They'll believe just about anything that comes along. People are stupid. They're not very smart. I think they shop at Stupidity Mart. Yeah, people are dumb. People aren't wise. People are dumb. They don't realize that gluten's not bad, and neither is meat. And salt is good for you if you don't want to be dehydrated. Don't just drink liquid stew. Instead, you've got to fill yourself with salt, or else you're filling yourself with poo. Yeah. It's called my salt song. I just made it up. It's about salt. Take a bite out of obesity. You know what causes obesity? People saying words about diet. No, all badgers play ball. Some ball players eat cheese. Some cheese people wear hats. Not some all, but all some. You got it backwards, or I said it backwards, one of the two. People who say what you should eat use their feet for the wrong thing. People who say what you should eat don't understand that meat is every person's individual choice. People who think the diet applies are people not very wise. Just look at me and my thighs. If I ate as they recommend, I'm sure I'd be starving, friends. Soon enough I'd waste away to nothing. When people tell you dietary advice, make an effort to infect them with lies. They deserve some sort of parasite crawling upon their scalp because they're wicked. Wicked indeed. Wicked indeed. Yeah, a true story about people who say stuff about diet. You know, it's really not healthy for you to eat. Oh? Open your mouth. Say ah, stick out your tongue. What is that? Sesame seed? Things get stuck in your teeth, motherfucker. That's it. Get in the dentist chair. I'm doing some arbitrary civilian dentistry. You know, scientists have been trying to prove some sort of link between salt and meow for ages. Same with coffee. They keep coming back with conflicting results of minor, barely statistically significant whatever. It's true for most dietary shit. They might get some sort of statistically significant results about some sort of dietary thing. But the thing to remember is our bodies work as follows. They are designed to take from our food what we need and poop out the rest. That's what our bodies are. It's a machine that already does this work for us. It separates out the good stuff from the bad stuff. We don't have to make choices about that. You know, it's absolutely insane to think that our fourth slot NI, because it's always like fourth slot NI people who are crazy about this shit, or maybe SI DOMs. It's insane to think that our subjective knowledge function in the dominant slot or our universal knowledge function in the fourth slot is a better thing to trust than our own bodies. Absolutely insane. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it's completely insane. It's mad, but not in the angry sense, but rather in the mentally unwell sense. Like a mad scientist. A mad scientist isn't angry. If you were under the impression that mad scientists were angry scientists, you misunderstand the expression. Listen, stop misunderstanding me. Have you ever read the book Please Understand Me? Well, I'm asking you right now to please understand me. That book should be called Please Feel With Me. That person doesn't mean understand when they say understand. They do not mean understand. They're misusing the term understand. They mean feel me, dog. Accursed feelers. Of course, I'm just kidding. I don't have this much hostility at all towards anybody. Certainly not feelers, who are lovely people. If Jesus was people but absent of sin, he must then have struggled with regular men and women, of course, when they too were present. Disciples all warily eyeing the lesson. If people were Jesus, they'd know as they think, and everyone's work would be true. And feelings once spoken would sit where they sing. We'd all know just what to do. But people aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. Easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Does virtue require a rational take? Or is virtue that's reasoned invariably fake? Does musing itself just distract from the flow? Or is care better served by deliberate and slow? Because people aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. The wise pay a terrible cost. The one you thought you knew acts like you never have met. The life you made for two has faded into regret. No one unshaken, we all have been shook. Being forsaken don't mean you're forsook. And though in the past we've been hung out to dry, we'll find them at last if we're willing to try. But people aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Yeah, baby, naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. It's a great song. I'm really proud of that song. It's a really good song. It's a little hard to sing for me, especially when my voice is kind of shot like this. I'm not really comfortable in either range. You know, it's a little too high, the high range, unless my voice is in really good shape, and it's too low in the low range. The other song I'm really happy with, I like this one even better. This is maybe I don't know if it'll stay this way forever, because I tend to have newer things be my favorite thing now or whatever, but this is my favorite of my songs at the moment, and I think it's going to persist as one of my favorites. 30,000 days, too many expectations, not even worth a damn. 30,000 nights to sleep off the intoxication, otherwise you won't escape the plan. I wasted half my days trying another's ways. Who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody who knows the key? Because I'm tired of doing it wrong. Want direction and have all along. Wait until I know. Or is that just hesitation? Clarity's no good once your chance is gone. What I need to show is so below my station. I'm tired of doing it wrong. I wasted half my days trying another's ways. Who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody knows the key? 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. Yeah, I think I'm doing this wrong. Doing this wrong. I didn't play it very well, but I'm still, I haven't played it that many times since it's new. I like it a lot. It's got a very singable melody to it, the verse. 30,000 days, 30,000 meow, 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 meow. It's good. I like it. Makes you think of happiness and joy. Happiness and joy, those are my favorite things. Mine too. We should share a train car as we travel across Europe and learn each other's bodies. Too much noise in the deadest dream. Loud enough to disrupt everybody's dreams. Frustrations mean mistakes are made until it seems everybody's just throwing shade. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. Not the sort of thing that one can borrow. No one really still to end that day. Your uncertainty's implicit, just like an unexpected visit from a bunch of men all dressed in blue suits. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. A good song, hard to play, a little bit hard to nail, or everything for me is hard to nail. It's like to get to that point where I feel like, am I satisfied? Like, bam, I nailed it. Very, very rarely does that happen. My voice has got to be set. Everything's got to be right, or else it's just going to be not that great, or not going to be like pow all the way right. Pow all the way right is your goal. That's a good title for like a band or something. Pow all the way right. Of course, it's setting yourself up for a high standard. It isn't all the way right, Eric. It's an aspirational name. I think I will play this one. This is a fun song to play. What's the matter with Chad? Is he terribly bad? Is he very like Dan, who's a terrible man? Is he sort of like Jill, who can't pay her bill? Or rather like Jack, just stuck on the facts? What's the matter with Sue? Will she know what to do if they bring attitude? Will she show ingenuity you whenever we go walking. What's the matter with Bryn? We're living in sin. She's been hanging with Jim, who's looking terribly thin. What's the deal with Frank? Stealing fish from my tank. Colluding with you. He's talking to Lou. What's wrong with the ladies? What's the matter with men? From the feelings of Katie, the coldness of Sven. They talk about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days. Spill out the overwatered past. And whoever's left that's still okay, just tie the sails to the mast. Are you angry at Ken or better again? Don't bother with Kev, he's practically dead. Just focus on Bert, he's medium hurt. What's the quantity for Liz? She failed a quiz. What's the matter with Drew? Will she know what to do? If they bring attitude, will she show ingenuity? She talks about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days. Paths that lead to lesser days. Spill out the overwatered past. Just tie the sails to the mast. Each of us have much and gravely sinned. Throw up the hands, stiffen the chin. Catastrophe looms heavy overhead again. Time's gone will never be again. All right, that's enough guitar. Thank you for your indulgence. You're still here. I won't bore you further. I am going to get a link from here, though, to share with some people who want to see it. There's a couple links I want to get, actually. Let me get the Typology Quick Reference Guide for anybody who doesn't have it. I'm going to share that. But I also want to share a couple of other documents that I think are potentially cool or significant or whatever. So here's the meow first. Here is the meow in your heart and the meow in your butt. The meow in your fart and the meow in your hut. Women, I don't think women like songs written by simps and gay men. I mean, it's kind of silly. It's like there's a lot of songs that are like, I'm so manly and I'm gonna, I'm into having sex and into making love, so come give me a hug, like that 50 Cent song, right? Or big pen, man, that's a beat for that. Big pimping is so distinctive. Every time you hear that instrument, even doing that sort of waddly thing that it does, you go, there's that beat. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Winston's mom. I don't have anorexia. I just have perpetual skinniness. And actually, I'm about as chubby as I ever am right now. I can feel the chub. Okay, so that was one link I wanted to share. Another link, right? Don't forget what you're doing, Eric. Did I make this video ever? Or did I just... there's another started thing that never went anywhere. I can share a couple of links here. It's just funny Eric being silly things. But I also want to share in particular the function Rummy, which I have a resumed enthusiasm for trying to finish making it work. Now that I know we're looking at four field. I think when I was originally making the game, I hadn't nailed down the four distinct field things. I just had internal and external, and I was trying to figure out how to make it work. Now it should be a lot easier to make it work. The other thing I wanted to share is this. Where is it? Oh yeah, this. Now this link here is the actual document that I would refer to as the cognitive function book that I'm not really working on, but officially sort of backburnering working on. I would like to get back to this and work on it more. That's this one. And next, after that, I'm going to get something a little bit more fun and exciting. Namely, I'm going to get function rummy.
I don't know how to play rummy.
It's just called function rummy. It may have some relationship to rummy rules, but it's just called that basically. So copy link and done. And here, going to meow this meow. So this, this must be finished. This is something I've just got to prioritize it because it would help me so much in explaining shit. If I could just say something, okay, look, let's play function rummy together. What's the difference between TI and NI? NI is about what's determinant. It's also about synergy. So, an engine is synergistic. If you take out one of the pistons from the engine, it won't run. It won't go 90 miles an hour instead of 100. It won't go at all. It needs everything to work in coordination for the systemic synergistic reality of it to come to be. NI is concerned with things like that. Holistic things that gain their truth, identity, or other notability by virtue of their synergy rather than by virtue of their reducibility. TI is about what's reducible. So certain things are not conducive to TI parsing because they aren't reducible. And TI is about trying to draw distinctions and eliminate stuff, right? This is the problem that I run afoul of sort of value-wise with FI people sometimes is they don't like the fact that the whole point of TI is to eliminate shit, to excise it. And that to them seems like you're delegitimizing certain people when you're delegitimizing Yanity Meows. Did I put the function rummy link yet? Did I just put that one? Or let me see.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, I did just put that one. So I need to update it though, because like I said, I didn't quite have the whole four fields thing worked out all the way when I made this function memory thing, I think. So I need to update it. I would like to maybe even have somebody's help, or if somebody else can finish that, figure out how to finish it or something. I don't know. You need a lot of decks of cards to play function memory. And they need to be each different. They need to have back pictures of them be different, like double solitaire. All right, let me look what else kind of fun documents I have to share. This is an interesting document. This is a fun document. This is a highly relevant article, by the way. This is a separate thing. I noticed in this document I linked to this article as a reminder to myself to reference it in some other capacity. But that article is really interesting, if I remember correctly, and worth reading. But anyway, this is the thing I'm going to share now. It's called TVT. All right, a copy of TVT. Here. Well, I put David Sanderson, I put a link a while back in the community tab to this. There's this lady who was an actress, who's called like a super rememberer or something. So this last document, TVT, is it's kind of a nice. Well, it kind of, like everything I make it, I got 20 pages in writing it, and then I just out at the end of that, I got so many documents like this. So 20 pages of like high quality stuff, and then, okay, new idea now. I'm tired of that. I got all these like partially finished book starts and stuff. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh, that's actually not the oh no, it's close enough. Yeah, it's the same thing basically. I just have part of that card cut. So this article I linked to about the Tracy wisdom curve is highly, highly informative about the kind of system dynamics of systems undergoing state change. It's a really excellent article. I highly recommend reading that article. I don't say that very often, but it was one of the more powerful articles I've read in terms of informing how I think about it. Yeah, it's Mary Lou Henner. That's who I was talking about, Winston's mom. You got it. Well, I mean, the thing is, people pay attention in certain ways because, one, in some sense, they're choosing what they pay attention to. Two, in some sense, they're responding to stimuli. And three, in some sense, they're just exercising their habituated nature. No, I didn't end up typing her for free. If she comes back, now there's no point in setting it up. If she comes back and starts arguing with me again, I will inform her of this decision and she can schedule a slot. Because the thing is, I've realized in part that my frustration is at myself a bit, and as much as it is anything else, namely that I'm not actually doing a very good job of explaining why my approach is preferable in ways that people who aren't TI 1 or 2 or 3 can understand and respect. So I need to improve my ability to explain complicated ideas in simple terms that make good sense. Cobus van der Bijl, I want to tell you, the send button poses many risks to all people across the world.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Let me grab this. I will link it so it's actual link. Piaudity piao, pastity paste. Here you go. Have a tastity taste. All right, so let me read a little bit of this out loud. Orchestrated objective reduction is a biological philosophy of mind that postulates that consciousness originates at the quantum level inside neurons rather than the conventional view that it is a product of connections between neurons. The mechanism is held to be a quantum process called objective reduction that is orchestrated by cellular structures called microtubules. It is proposed that the theory may answer the hard problem of consciousness and provide a mechanism for free will. I've already provided an explanation, a proof of free will. We don't need to provide a mechanism for free will because the notion that you have to provide a mechanism for free will is the wrong way to establish free will. So the actual answer is conditionality proves free will. Conditionality and free will are the same thing, in other words. Hypothesis was first put forward in the early 90s by theoretical physicist Roger Penrose. Hypothesis combines approaches from molecular biology, neuroscience, pharmacology, philosophy, quantum interference theory, and quantum gravity. While mainstream theories assert that consciousness emerges as the complexity of computations performed by cerebral neurons. Right. So look, here's what I will say about all of this explanation here, where it's saying OR posits that it's based on non-computable quantum processing performed by qubits collectively forming things called microtubules, blah, blah, blah. The criticism of OR has concentrated on three issues. Penrose's interpretation of Gödel's theorem, Penrose's abductive reasoning, linking non-computationally to the quantum events, and the brain's unsuitability to host the quantum phenomena required by the theory since it is considered too warm, wet, and noisy to avoid decoherence. I think the main problem with it is the abductive reasoning. So, in other words, it says, let's look at an observed thing and come up with the best explanation for why it occurs. That approach to understanding things, abductive reasoning, is why it results in this. Abductive reasoners are responsible for every psychological theory that failed to account for cognitive functions. If you try to explain things causally in isolation, with this kind of reasoning, you are destined to fail. If you're trying to reason about this kind of thing, consciousness. Because the thing is, when they're talking about quantum stuff, right? What they're making it's basically a metaphorical corollary. It's not really, they're not really talking about quantum stuff. The fact that there's uncertainty is easily explained by the realities of conditionality. Conditionality, the fundamental idea of conditionality is that we are more informed when we consider conditionally possible alternatives, and that there are varying amounts of conditionally relevant alternatives depending on the matter at hand. Sometimes it's only a couple. Sometimes it's infinite. So we acknowledge going in that conditionality and the fact that we can't consider all possible conditional explanations necessitates uncertainty. It definitionally necessitates it. Philosophy has been way ahead of physics for a long time. I read articles just the other day about the question regarding the titles are all very provocative. Science reveals we may not know, our perception of reality may be wrong. And it addressed the tree falls in the forest question. And it said, startlingly, the answer may be no. I mean, talk about like, what's a good analogy for this? It's like somebody goes, people have been musing for years about whether these ducks are Presbyterians or Eastern Orthodox. Startlingly, the answer may be Eastern Orthodox. I mean, no. If a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make, and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. The answer is, you presented me with contradictory premises. So any conclusion derived from those is valid and unsound. That's the answer to the question. Either yes or no is making a category error. It's pretending as though we can arrive at a yes or no answer when presented with contradictory premises, which is not the case. So when I read an article that's full of quantum stuff and lots of sciencey stuff and people with doctorates and stuff saying, well, it turns out that the answer may be no, I just go, oh, those ducks are neither Presbyterians nor Eastern Orthodox. None of them are. None of them can be. You're making a category error and producing this massive amount of work based on that fundamentally flawed notion. Boy, I am a external metaphysical field warrior right now the last couple of days. Just, I know it's right and you're wrong. Like that. Whoa. Thanks, baby. There's two distinct woes that are important in culture, as long as we're talking about catchphrases, because, I've got two possible catchphrases I'm considering. One of them is, not on my watch. The other one is, deal with it. But as far as catchphrases goes, there's two very distinct woes. There's the Keanu Reeves woe. Whoa. And then there's the Joey Lawrence woe. Whoa.
I was thinking about Joey Lawrence's whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a great whoa.
Yeah.
It's a Western equivalent to Eastern monks who go, Om. In the West, we sit and go, whoa, 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 whoa.
It's true.
Yes, you did. I never corrected you because I was afraid you would try to find the actual video of me. But I do play guitar. Oh, good. Good for you, Chris. I'm happy to hear that.
PP likes me to play guitar, but sometimes when it's just me and her, she'll go over to the guitar, her tail will point to it, it's like. I'm like, okay, I have to practice. You're right, and I'll play for her. And she hangs out with me.
Well, if I were talking guitar a little bit, I want to share a piece of guitar player wisdom from long ago. Remember this: you can tune a guitar, you cannot tune a fish, but whether or not you can tune a corn is uncertain.
That's important.
Yeah, I'm full of important words today, aren't I?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna take a bath.
Okay, I'm gonna play any song I uploaded yesterday. I'm gonna listen to it right now because, well, maybe an hour since I've listened to it. Until I get it settled in my SI, I need to listen to it a lot. I was kind of thinking, detectives in the parks. I was kind of thinking, detectives in the parks. Once there was a girl named Jenny Sue, a teenage girl a lot like you. She lived in Florida, played some softball prematurely. Had her last call, the day was clear and the sky was blue, so you don't need to fear what killed Jenny Sue. She came to the plate and she swung the bat, and everybody heard a great big crack. When sight returned to their eyes, they could only see a pair of charcoal eyes. Minnie's mom was shocked, of course, and sad. In fact, her life seemed mostly bad. She had loved her kid and kept her safe, and then all at once the kid had met her fate. And Mom was outraged. Mom was mad. Mom sought help from her brother Brad.
A silly swine, one named
eyes begin to shine. Someone to blame, better worse kind of thinking. To lock me inside, the better worse kind of thinking. Keeping me from danger, textures in the parts. And on the range, the better worse kind of thinking. Textures in the parts. Listen, Yetzray Mahel, you may or may not be more lawful than ENTPs, but you are much less objective than ENTPs. You are much more effective than ENTPs. You get effective, I get objective.
That's
okay.
Good.
That's how it works.
He is very objective. He's more objective than me at times.
I mean, the thing is, I think TI tool is generally going to be the most objective type because TI is the most objective function in terms of disinterested, in terms of that definition of objective. Now, if we're talking about objective as in dealing with things as objects, well, NI is actually rather more objective because Rachel likes to deal with things that don't really work as objects, even as objects. For example, she sometimes talks about generations, like, well, that's a boomer, Gen X, or whatever. Those divisions are really quite arbitrary, and people don't really conform to those generational qualities very much. But she feels most comfortable with NI understandings of things. And generations is an NI understanding, type is an NI understanding, astrological type is an NI understanding, numerology is an NI understanding. Those are holistic understandings of why people are representatives of a pattern rather than unique snowflakes.
Yeah, it's true. And actually, the fact that we've been like watching movies and looking up the actor's age comparatively to ours has really been helping me because I think that like baby boomers have been really getting like a bad rep in like the papers and stuff. Like a lot of like young vloggers are like saying that there's problems with them, and then like you look at their like body of work.
Keanu and also Sandra Bullock are both 7 years older than me and boomers.
Yeah.
So okay, Yisrael Mahal, I've gone over this many times. First of all, if you're gonna say introverted functions are subjective and extroverted functions are objective, that's just plain wrong. But if you're gonna meaningfully want to argue with me about it, you're gonna have to draw distinctions between the different definitions of objective and subjective that people use. So when describing a calculation, people generally use the term objective to mean disinterested. When describing data, people usually mean the term objective to mean accessible by all. When describing individuals, people usually use the term objective to mean logical in their explanations and reasoning. So when you are saying that NI is subjective, for example, and NE is objective, okay, you're right that NE is objective, but only sort of. The reality is only two functions are correctly called objective and subjective in the calculation understanding of the term, in terms of interested or disinterested. And those two functions are TI and FI. TI is the disinterested calculation, FI is the interested calculation. Now, it's true that paying attention requires individuals to deal with data. Whether or not that data is objective or subjective depends on the quality of the data. Namely, is it accessible by all or is it accessible only to some? So, for example, my true feelings as I experience them is data that's only accessible to me. My words about my feelings is data that's accessible to everybody. So that data you call objective. Now, the reason we can't conclude that extroverted functions are all objective is, remember, all attention is paid by an individual from within themselves. So there is no attention that occurs outside of an individual. And one of the biggest problems in cognitive functions is because of the way that we talk about it in this metaphorical way all the time, people always forget that. And they think that somehow extroverted intuition happens out there. It doesn't. An attentional manner, however, pays attention to a certain location. And it can pay attention to an external location or an internal location. It is not the case that always paying attention to an external location means you're always objective, and always paying attention to an internal location means you're always subjective. In no definition of the terms does that make any sense. So we know that attitude, extroversion, introversion, is not the same thing as objective, subjective. He retracted it. I didn't get rid of it. Well, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of respect for Dario Arnardi's work at all. I think it's he's not even trying, frankly. He's not trying to he's trying to do the experiment without doing the stuff he needs to do ahead of time to make the experiment matter. Okay, yeah, we already knew that. Yitzrael Mahel. We already knew that cognitive functions activate patterns on the brain because the whole idea, the engine behind the cognitive function notion is one of locality suppression. Namely, we've already learned a long time ago that when an area of the brain lights up, surrounding areas immediately in the vicinity of that area light down. So it's like it draws power away from things that are local to it. This is the fundamental reason why cognitive functions are what they are, is that there's an inherent inverse proportionality or exclusivity aspect to attention. If you pay attention to one thing, you're not paying attention to something else. Some kinds of attention can occur concurrently and some can't. Some allow you to, I can chew gum and think about philosophy at the same time, but I can't think about philosophy and think about movie critique at the same time. TI is not anything in and of itself. Remember, TI is a way people pay attention. So when I say, oh, his TI is good, what that means is this person demonstrated the ability to pay attention in ways that focus exclusively on correctness and assume words mean specific things. No, yes, Rael Mahel. We know that's not the truth, okay? We know for sure that TI is not subjective. And here's how we know. Because it doesn't matter if I say all bears eat cheese, Smokey's a bear, therefore Smokey eats cheese, or if I say all A's have B, C is A, therefore C has B. It doesn't matter if I use words or symbols. In both instances, anybody who understands how language works will agree that argument is valid. It doesn't even have to have any specific meanings. It's still valid because grammar, logical validity is a universal mechanism of validity. Now, truth is not universal. Truth is a matter of rhetorical slope, but validity is universal, and TI is based on validity. So TI is the universal objective deliberation function, and FI is the particular subjective deliberation function. No, Yetzirah Mahel. No, TI is not subjective. Remember, again, when we say TI, we're saying a person is paying attention in a way that tries to eliminate their personal interest and bias in order to come to a correct conclusion that is reliant on consistency with agreed upon premises and such. Okay, so we know that that's universal and objective because that's what it means to say I am paying attention with TI. It means I am not including in my considerations my own interests and feelings. I am including in my considerations validity and consistency and fairness. So when you say that TI is subjective, you're not using the word subjective in a way that means anything. If you want to say that TI is subjective and you're going to say, well, it's done by the subject, I don't know what generalization you made. I'm assuming your generalization is wrong. But yes, TI is in an intentional manner. It's paying attention by a subject. Okay. So is every cognitive function, though. So we can't use that distinction to determine whether something's subjective or objective. What did we talk about, Rachel? Look, no, NI and TI can, no. Running Fox, again, even though we treat cognitive functions as objects of analysis, we must always recall that an intentional manner is paid by an agent and there's a locus of attention. In other words, something is being paid attention to, okay? So it is not the case that when you pay attention in a disinterested objective fashion, that sometimes it's interested and subjective. That's where the exclusivity and the inverse proportionality comes in. It is the case that sometimes when you're paying attention in an objective and disinterested fashion, that the conclusion is the same as the one you would have drawn were you paying attention in an interested fashion. But that doesn't mean that you're doing both. Okay, but see, Winston's mom, that's how we know that Jung's talking out of his ass. An extroverted attitude, remember, all cognitive functions occur within an agent. It's an agent paying attention to something. Paying attention to stuff outside of you is not fundamentally more objective, even though the data may be. So if we're not drawing a distinction between how we use the term objective and subjective to refer to data and how we use it to refer to processes and how we use it to refer to people, then whatever you're saying is just coming out your ass. But not all thinking is oriented by the object and objective data. TE is oriented by its goal. It's always checking the map to remind what does the goal look like. And it deals objectively with the realities that stand between it and the goal. But that doesn't mean it's being oriented by object and objective data. It's being oriented by FI or some SI or something that knows what the goal is. That's the orientation. That's the thing that keeps coming back to reorient the TE user is remember what the goal is, where we're going. Now that's not orientation by object or objectivity. It's orientation by subjectivity. Granted, they adjust in their dynamic interface with the system to changes in objective data. TE absolutely does deal with objective data, but it's not an objective process. And because Jung didn't draw that distinction, he's wrong about objectivity and subjectivity. In fact, he's not even wrong. He's pre-wrong. Because he failed to draw that distinction, we know he hasn't done the necessary prerequisite thinking to be right about it, even potentially. But it's not internal structure. Okay, Mahel, language is fundamentally binary in a way that reality is not. And as a consequence, it's not the internal structure of anything. It's the nature of language as a static system that can be parsed and understood in ways that dynamic living systems cannot. So as far as the Bill and Ted's movie goes, I kind of want to see it, but I'm kind of fearful that it's going to disappoint me. And I'm not going to like it. I read kind of a mediocre-ish review. I've read a couple of good reviews. I've not read anything glowing. I've not read any review that says it was delightful and I was surprised, which is what I would like to see, you know? So, yes, Ray, I wish you had a Yet. I'm just going to call you Yeti from now on, okay? Listen, Yeti. TI is logos. Well, first of all, logos, as the Greeks understand it, is not well defined enough. But TE is basically any external system, right exactly on the money. TE deal is how human beings pay attention to systems that have their own specific logic. TI is how people pay attention to the one universal logic, namely the communicative logic. Oh, Chris Stuckman said it's super feel good. Okay, super feel good. That's pretty encouraging. I can go with super feel good. So, okay, maybe I haven't read enough reviews. Maybe the first review I read was the exception. Sure. Look, a sink and a door each have their own logic, and it's totally different. I might know how to work on the sink and have no idea how to work on the door. It would give me no information about working on the door, right? No, Yeti, listen to me. Do we agree that a sink operates according to a different logic than a door? That a door operates according to a different logic than an organizational plan for a business? I did a whole shit ton of TE work in business logic, quote unquote, which is not logic at all. Namely, I made a bunch I was the director of a big program. I made all the curriculum for all the classes, and I had to make sure all the teachers had the shit they're supposed to have when they're supposed to have it. But most importantly, what I had to do was make sure that I had reduced time spent by an adult with a group of children in a room into a set of ordinal steps that first and foremost took into account how much time they needed to use up and tried to make sure that time was converted into something demonstrably positive for the clients, right? So that's a TE kind of question. And I did a lot of TE work when I was doing that shit. And it was boring as fuck. That's all particularist logic. In other words, it's driven by the particularist goal. Happy clients, happy parents who feel as though their kids, even though they're not on the team yet, are in a class where they're learning something, a lot of different things ideally, and also have the class be one the kids want to go to so they're not bitching about it to their parents and stuff like that. A very particular set of concerns that I was using to continually reorient myself as to how to approach these problems. So that's not a universal logic. That's a particular system with its own unique systems logic that I have to therefore use TE and not TI to figure out. If I was using TI in that capacity, I would have said, we need to get rid of all these survey classes and only have competition teams. If they're not good enough to make it on a team, we cut them from the school entirely. That's the TI position on it. That's the most logical approach to this thing. We're squeezing money out of people for classes that they don't really need. You don't need a year prerequisite before you start taking debate, right? TI would say that. So TE is particular system logic, TI universal logic. I agree with that statement right there, okay? But specifically, it's universal communicative logic. So the reason it's universal is because even though every object operates according to its own logic, all conversation occurs according to the same logic. In other words, things like and, or, if, then, and not mean something fundamentally, grammatically implicit to the binary nature of language. Your mom's face doesn't, though, Sky Gear. I was looking around and I finally found somebody that doesn't operate according to the universal laws of physics, and it's Sky Gear's mom's face. Your brother is an ISTP, his logic is indestructible. Well, I mean, you're talking to an ENTP. I'm ISTP's supervisor type. So ISTPs always seem incredibly weak to me. Like, I always win every argument with them because I'm the supervisor type. Concurrently, remember, I get it the other direction too. INFPs, I guess, will always be able to make me go, hang dog. Oh, I guess I messed up. I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't caring about people's feelings and effort, whatever. Indestructible in the business sense. Yeah, well, I mean, they do. The thing is, TI DOMs have an absolute value of TE, whereas I have countervalued TE. I don't like TE. I don't like solving problems. I don't like that frame of reference. I like being right and presenting the correct thing and then allowing the solvency people to solve it with my correctness. Yeah, I mean, ISPs are great. I'm not trying to say ISPs aren't smart or, like I coached this one ISTP kid in interview skills, which were impossibly bad. But the reason he needed it is because he had like 4.2, he'd gotten a perfect score on the ACT and was applying things like Harvard and Yale. Even though if you just talk to the guy, you think, God, this guy is dull as a bag of rocks. Holla back, Alan. Holla back. Oh, right. Spider-Man Far From Home, because we saw Homecoming, but not Far From Home. I got to warn you, though, Alan, you're arriving at the end of the stream. I'm about to wrap it up. I think I'm going to play a goodbye song and then wrap it up. Okay. I've got a cover in mind for a good goodbye song, okay? I don't know. I've never played the song before, so I'm not sure. All right, here we go. Like I said, I've never played the song before, but it doesn't look like it's too hard. That's my goodbye song for today. I hope you enjoy it. again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. And will you please say hello to the folks I know? I won't be long. I'll be happy to know you saw me go. I was singing this song. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Yeah, we'll meet again. I don't know where, I don't know when, but the skies and my clouds far away. Oh, will you please say hello to all the folks I know and tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know as they saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again. I don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Yeah, that song is written by Johnny Cash. I had no idea. Johnny Cash wrote that song. Who knew? Thanks for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Alan Bryan, you don't even know. It's a little bit insulting because this is a 3/4 size guitar. It's not a full size guitar. Now you just said I have small hands. Thanks a lot. You know I'm sensitive about that.